Friday, the 25th. Yeah, so I'm reading, well, I tried to read this. I started 2 days ago and I read the first section because there's no chapters, they switch point of views between Penny and Sam. So I read the first Penny point of view, and I don't know, by page 3 or 4 I was like, I didn't really like her, and I feel like I should be okay with not liking the main character as long as I can connect with them. And all I could think was that she was just unnecessarily mean and judgmental to everybody in what she thought and what she said out loud to them. And I was like, is this supposed to be relatable? Because she's mean. And like, I'm cynical and sarcastic and self-deprecating, but the thoughts she has about her mother, her boyfriend, pretty much everybody she encounters, the way they're described, I was like, good God, like, it's just mean and just overly judgmental. And I just had the thought that I was like, is she gonna be like this the entire book? Because I can't stand it. I literally can't stand to read from this point of view. So there's that. And then I started on Sam's point of view, and his was marginally better, but then I felt like his point of view wasn't making sense, because these are like third person limited point of view, so you're still in these characters' heads. It's just written in third person. But then in Sam's point of view, we get things said about him that I was like, why is he the one telling us about these aspects of himself? It feels overly self-aware, like someone else should point that out, or at least it should be pointed out in dialogue, maybe. Hi, Poo Dog. Hi. Come to see me? What you doing? Hi. Come to see what's up? Hi. So here, I'll just, you know what, I'll just read it. So it says, the thing about Sam was that he had a tell. Well, two. They weren't an exact science, but they gave you a sense. One was his hair. He had a great head of hair, dark and longer on top. His ex-girlfriend, who came up as liar on his phone now, had referred to it as irresponsible hair. Why am I losing my voice? Lovely. If it was relaxed and tucked behind his ears, Sam was chill. If it was slicked back, he was spoiling for a fight. If it was fluffy, a very rare treat. It meant he completely trusted whoever was around at the time. Sam's hair hadn't been fluffy in a while. Today it was tucked back, yet also kinda done, with the telltale sheen of product. It was inscrutable. And then it goes on and says, avid Sam observers, especially if they were monitoring him in his own habitat, could check for his next tell. Sam's happiness was somehow tied to his desire to bake. When you walked into house, the coffee house that he works at, and there in the display case was a cold lone scone and an anemic trio of store-bought Danish, you were better to keep a wide berth. You should treat him as you would a man with a scab where his eye should have been, and the words, "Not today, Satan," branded in giant letters across his forehead, with caution. So it keeps going, and it says, if the case and cake stands were resplendent with crunchy, fresh-baked coffee cake, whoopie pies, or caramelized banana bread pudding pots with cream cheese frosting, it meant that Sam was liable to make out with you if you walked in. Plus, you'd enjoy it. Sam was the dynamite maker-outer. Today, he'd whip together a dozen hand pies and the donuts and nothing else. And that could mean anything. Like, that whole section, I was like, what? I was like, why is Sam telling us this about himself? That just seems so strange to me, to get all that information about tells that he has, about the way he wears his hair, or the way he bakes. about himself. Like, if they have other characters come in, so I was like, if the other characters had come in and said like, oop, I see your hair's kind of done, like I don't know what that means, or I see you're baking, but you're baking all this stuff and it's not, like, what does this mean? It brings it up into the story. Instead, we get Sam talking about himself in a very, very weird way. And I was like, to be honest, I stopped reading after his section. And every time I thought about picking it up, I was like, well, Penny's section is next. Who's she gonna be mean and judgmental to this time? Like, that's not a good sign. I stopped picking this book up, and it's due back at the library today, so, because there's requests on it, so I'm just gonna return it. And we're almost done with the month, so I'm, you know, I'm just gonna see if I think about picking this up later in the future. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know, because if I don't like, okay, the writing is good. There's a lot of voice to it. That's why immediately I was like, oh, do I have to be in Penny's head? Even though it's not even in first person. Like, it's a very good, strong, third, limited point of view. And it just, I don't know, it made it that much harder for me to get into the characters. But maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just not in the right headspace for this book to read about a mean and judgmental character. Because I was like, maybe she grows in the book. Maybe things change. And that's fine. I just don't know if I want to struggle through that until she gets to the point where she's no longer being mean to people. And if Sam's going to continue to talk about himself that way, no thanks. So I'm DNFing it for now, and we'll see if later at some point, if my TBR gets any smaller, if I might try this again, because I wanted to like this so much. I had really like high hopes for it because it sounded like a story that should be up my alley, all right? And then the writing style and the characters just messed up for me. So yeah, I don't know. I feel almost like the writing, like if you heard from any of that, it feels like it's trying too hard almost. Like it's trying so hard to have that distinctive voice that I'm like, does anybody talk this way? Does anybody like think this way in their head, even about themselves? So yeah, I'm maybe not the audience for this book, so I'm just, even though I should be, I felt like I would be. And I've heard a lot of people say they like it, but we'll see. Maybe sometime later this year, if my TBR gets smaller and I feel like trying with this again, I will figure it out. I don't know. All right, in the meantime, there's not many more days left until the end of the month, and I still had Scythe, but I think I'm gonna return this to the library as well, just because my library does have a copy, so it would be easier for me to pick it up later, and just in case someone else wants to be reading it. I probably will not carry it over into June's TBR because June is Pride Month, so I'm probably gonna be reading a lot of queer fiction. So I'm gonna be returning this, and I'm going to focus on finishing 3 Sides of a Heart, which I'm, you know, I'm almost there. And I do really like this so far. I've only come across like one kind of meh story for me, so far that's pretty good for these. So I'm gonna keep reading this one, and if I have time, I'm going to get to Brightly Burning because I do still really want to read this one. And yeah, that's my plan. I feel bad about Emergency Contact, but maybe it just wasn't for me, and I'm gonna move on to different books. Hello, it's Wednesday the 30th. I've been sick for a few days. I have not been feeling well. First it was vertigo, and then I had some kind of stomach bug, and I'm still not great. So I have not been doing anything really the last few days. I have not been reading, I have not been writing. So I'm closing up this month, this vlog for reading. I know I said I was going to start Brightly Burning, but I did not because I got sick, and I got like through one more story I think in here, but yeah, so I'm gonna keep reading Three Sides of a Heart into June, but like I had Emergency Contact that I DNF'd for now, and I returned Scythe to the library just because I knew I wasn't gonna get to it. I have a different TBR for June because it's Pride Month, so I'm gonna be reading a lot of queer books, hopefully. I say hopefully because who knows how much I will actually get read, but I figure this one still has some queer stories, so I'll still be reading this to start off with in June. You know, I had a pretty good reading month. I love The Outsiders, always love it. Ultraviolet was overall good, even though I still have kind of mixed feelings about it. I did enjoy the read. And what else did I even read? Does anybody know what I read? I don't know what I read. Yeah, so I read 1, 2 and a half and part of a third, and then yeah, all right, I didn't do a whole lot, but I knew I wasn't, so I probably will limit my June selection because I know I don't read very much. So hope you enjoyed this reading vlog of me vaguely reading books, sort of. All right, I'm gonna keep reading. That's it for now. I will see you guys in my next video, whenever that is.